Have you ever stopped to think about what happens when you visit a website? Like a modern React app. It feels instantaneous, almost like magic. But behind the scenes, there's this incredible, lightning-fast journey taking place. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain and follow that journey every single step of the way. Right, so you type a URL into your browser, you hit enter, and boom, the page loads. But in that split second, a whole secret adventure unfolded. We're going to follow one single web request and see exactly where it goes and what it does. And you know what? The best way to think about this is like a classic hero's journey broken down into 3 simple acts. Our little request gets a call to adventure. It has to face a powerful gatekeeper. And then, finally, it makes the trip home with the prize.
Okay, Act 1, the call to adventure. So our request has its mission. It knows the name of the website it needs to find, like yourapp.com. But the internet is a massive, massive place. It doesn't know where that is. It needs an address.
And that's where the DNS, or domain name system, steps in. Think of it as the phone book for the entire internet. It's that simple. We remember catchy names, but computers and servers, they only talk in numbers, these IP addresses. DNS is the translator that turns the name we type into the number the computer needs.
And this whole lookup process is crazy fast. Your browser basically asks, hey, where can I find this website? And a DNS server somewhere up there instantly shoots back the answer, oh, you need to go to this specific IP address. Just like that, our request has its destination. It knows where it's going, and the real journey can begin.
All right, on to Act 2. Our request has zipped across the internet and arrived at the right server. But it can't just barge in. First, it has to get past the bouncer at the door, the gatekeeper for the whole operation, a little something called Nginx. Nginx is, for all intents and purposes, the single front door to your application. Every bit of traffic, every single request from every user has to go through it first. It's the one that decides who gets in, where they're sent, and how fast everything happens. So, okay, it's a front door, a gatekeeper, but what is it actually doing? Why do so many modern apps rely on it? Well, it turns out it's juggling 4 incredibly important jobs all at once. We can think of these as 4 trials that our request has to pass. Nginx is part security guard, part speed booster, part mediator, and part traffic cop. So let's break down exactly what that means.
First up, security. Your browser sends the request encrypted. That's what the S in HTTPS is all about. Now, without Nginx, your poor React app would have to do all the heavy lifting of decrypting that message, which actually takes a lot of processing power. But with Nginx, it handles all of that. It terminates the SSL, decrypts the request, and then passes a nice, clean, simple message to your app. This lets your application focus on, well, being an application.
Next, the speed boost. When a request comes in, Nginx has this brilliant memory called a cache. If it's the first time someone's asked for a particular page, Nginx gets it from the app and saves a copy. But the next time someone asks for that same page, Nginx doesn't even bother the app. It just serves up the copy it saved, and the difference is night and day. It goes from slowish to totally instant. Now, its job as a mediator. Nginx is what we call a reverse proxy. This is a fancy way of saying it acts as a go-between. It takes all the requests from the public internet and intelligently forwards them to the right application running privately on the server. Like your React app that's just running on something like localhost port few thousand. It's a protective shield, completely hiding your internal setup from the outside world. That's a huge win for security. And finally, Nginx as the traffic cop. So what happens if your app goes viral and you get slammed with thousands of requests all at once? Well, Nginx can take all that traffic and spread it out evenly across multiple copies of your application. It balances the load. This is amazing because it means no single server gets overwhelmed. And here's the best part. If one of those copies of your app crashes, Nginx is smart enough to see that and immediately stop sending people there, redirecting everyone to the ones that are still working. So our heroic little request has passed all the trials. It's been checked for security, sped up by the cache, and directed to the right place. The app has done its work. Now it's time for the final act, the journey home, back to your browser. Okay, so the React app builds the web page, all the HTML and data, and hands it back to Nginx. Nginx, ever the efficient one, might save a copy of that response in its cache for next time. Then it does its security job in reverse. It re-encrypts the whole package, wrapping it back up in that secure HTTPS layer before sending it off. Your browser gets this secure, ready-to-go response, and finally renders the page on your screen. When you trace that whole journey from start to finish, it becomes pretty obvious, right?
While your React app might be the star of the show, Nginx is the unsung hero, working tirelessly behind the scenes. So let's just quickly recap why it's such a game changer. So here's why developers absolutely love this thing. First, it has incredibly low memory usage. It's super lightweight, which means more of your server's valuable RAM can be used by your actual application. It's also the undisputed king of serving static content. All your JavaScript files, CSS, images. It can dish those out way faster than your app server can. And it does all of this, the security, the caching, the load balancing, all at once, seamlessly like a silent workhorse just getting the job done.
So building your app is really only half the story. The other half is making sure that what you've built can be delivered to people securely, quickly, and reliably, no matter how much traffic you get. And that, right there, is the gatekeeper's job. Which leaves us with one final thought. Your app might be built, but is your gatekeeper ready for the world?